Hello again and welcome to another Mage Tower guide. This time we will be going over the Frost Mage. So as always, we're going to start off with our consumables. We're going to need flasks of the Whispered Pact, potions of prolonged power, and either a haste or versatility food, just kind of depending on your stats. Moving on to my talents, in the first tier I went with Lonely Winter. You can also go with Bone Chilling if you want to keep your pet to have another AoE route, as well as having Water Jet, though that one's not very good for this specific challenge. But it really just kind of comes down to that extra AoE route if you want to have that or not. The extra damage you're getting from Lonely Winter is still just more than enough to kind of make up for the loss of the pet, so that's what I went with. In the next tier, I went with Shimmer over Ice Flows. Personally, I'm actually more of an Ice Flows person, but Shimmer is usually objectively better in almost all situations, and this one is no different. Being able to cast Blink when it's off the global cooldown and then immediately start casting Frostbolt or Ebon Bolt, whichever one you need to use in that situation, is extremely valuable, and it's just better overall. You run out of charges too fast with Ice Flows, which is kind of the main downfall here. Moving on to the 45 tier, I went with Incanter's Flow. It's the easiest one to use, as well as Rune of Power. You can't ever really stop to use it, and Mirror Images just doesn't really perform as well. In the next tier, I went with Splitting Ice. However, I think Frozen Touch might actually be better. There's very few situations where you can set yourself up to have meaningful cleave with your Ice Lance, and you need to be moving as much as you can, so Frozen Touch will actually help with that quite a bit. I don't know why I really went with Splitting Ice. It is just kind of a harder situation to set up where it is useful. It can be useful in this situation, but it's a lot harder to set up, so I think Frozen Touch might actually be better, but I did use Splitting Ice when I did this kill. Moving on, I went with Frigid Winds in this next tier, and I definitely think that's what everyone should take here, as it just helps slow down everything, which is something that's going to be very important with kiting. In the next tier, I went with Arctic Gale. This is mainly to increase the radius so you can hit more things with it because of the resets you get off of your Frozen Orb. The extra damage is obviously a bonus as well because you do want to be dealing damage to Karam and to Raced, so that is extra good, but it's mainly just for the radius increase to get more resets off of Frozen Orb. And finally, I went with Thermal Void. This is kind of the obvious choice here. The other two really don't come close, as at the end of the day, you're mainly just trying to kill Raced, and nothing else really matters. So being able to have a nice big single target burst is extremely good for this fight. So that was the talent setup that I went with. So let's quickly go over some of the mechanics we're going to be seeing in this fight before we get into the kill video. So at the start of the encounter, the first person you're going to be fighting is Karam Mage Spear. He will chase you, and if he ever reaches you, he will cast Rising Dragon. This will kick you up into the air and deal a large amount of damage. You really want to try to avoid this, as Frost Mages do not have a good way to recover their health, which can make things a little bit more challenging later on in the encounter. The other thing that Karam will do is occasionally drop one of these purple puddles on the ground. They will slow you if you go into it, so you'll want to make sure you're avoiding these as much as possible. These do persist throughout the entirety of the encounter, so dealing with Karam as fast as you can means dealing with less of these puddles throughout the encounter. Once Karam reaches 34%, he will cast Purgatory on himself, which will make him immune to all damage and start healing him up to 68% of his health. This will take about 40 seconds, so during this time we want to be switching to Raced Mage Spear, who is the person we ultimately want to kill in this encounter. He will cast Shadow Bolts at you, which do a trivial amount of damage, as well as summons 3 Shadowy Fiends surrounded by Shadowy Vestiges. These will do a ton of damage if they ever get to you, so these will also need to be kited. Once Karam gets back up to 68%, you'll need to switch to him again to get him back down to 34%. However, you're going to also have to deal with one additional mechanic, which is a Hand from Beyond. This thing will spawn directly behind wherever Karam just was and begin casting Grasp from Beyond. If this cast ever completes, you will instantly die. However, you can interrupt it and you can survive through Ice Block. When these guys are up, you want to kill them as fast as you can. Once Karam reaches 34%, he will again cast Purgatory on himself and you will enter the final phase. From here, you'll be focusing on Raced and trying to kill him as fast as possible, and you'll also have to deal with one final mechanic as well, which are these runes on the ground. They will get smaller as they are closer to completing, and if they ever complete, then a thing of nightmare will spawn, which will chase you down and pretty much kill you immediately. So make sure you're standing on these runes when they appear to make sure that it cannot spawn. So that's pretty much the fight. So with all that explained, let's go ahead and get into the kill video. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be doing here is setting up as far away from Karam as I feel like I can, to allow me to get off my Frostbolt and Ebonbolt without having him run me over. So what I'm going to do here is start off with a Frostbolt to get the slow on him, into Icy Veins and Ebonbolt, and then just trying to get in as much damage as I can. So there's the Frost Orb, and what I'm going to do right here is I'm actually going to blink through him, and this will pull him back into my Frost Orb to get a little bit more damage off of it. I did it a little bit late, but it still gets a couple more ticks in. Now, one other thing you're going to see me doing throughout this is every time I get a proc like this, I'm going to move. And the reason why is that every single instant cast spell that you use is also on the GCD, or the global cooldown, which means that you can move without sacrificing your damage, because you're still going to be on that cooldown right after the instant cast spell, which means that you might as well be moving to optimize your movement and not have to worry about losing any DPS for it. So I'll get one more. I'm going to go ahead and use that proc and move, and that's enough to push me into the next phase. So in this phase, we're just mainly focusing on Wraith. Everything else is to help us with that damage. So the Frost Orb I use right there, the main reason why I'm doing that is to get procs of Ice Lance, and the main reason that I'm using Blizzard is one, to put the slows on the Shadowy Vestiges and Fiends, but also to help me get resets for my Shadowy, or not for my Shadowy Orb, but for my Frost Orb. I don't have a Shadowy Orb. So basically those two things are synergizing here, is getting Blizzards to slow everything as well as resetting the Frost Orb, and the Frost Orb is to help get me Ice Lance procs. So now we're going to be switching back to Karam, and we just want to get in as much damage as we can to him before the first Hand from Beyond comes out. So there it is over there. I'm going to go ahead and switch to it, put a Blizzard behind me to keep the slow active on Karam, and try to kill this as fast as I can. You always want to wait as long as you can to get the interrupt off, as that will just give you more time overall to kill them. So I hardcasted a Blizzard right there to help me finish off the Hand from Beyond, as well as just keep slows on everything. So I'm going to get one more Hand from Beyond here, and I could phase Karam right now, but I want to enter the next part of the fight without a Hand from Beyond up. So I went ahead and went back over here, go ahead and use a Frost Nova since Karam was getting pretty close to me. I'm going to finish off this hand, and now I'm going to focus Karam down one last time and force him into the last phase. So this is where I'm going to be popping my cooldowns again, this time with Time Warp, and trying to kill Karam as fast as, or not Karam, but Wraith as fast as I can. So this will be basically the exact same as I did the first time I was facing Wraith, but this time I'm just going to need to be doing it a lot quicker. Also, we're going to have to deal with our first and only Rune of Summoning, which is right there, and as you see, it popped up on the other side of the platform. I'm in no hurry to get over there, as I don't want these Shadowy Fiends to block my way to it. So I wanted them still running towards me when it came up. And then I moved to it right before it went off. So take your time with it. It does take them a pretty long time for them to go off. So I see at this point I am going to have to deal with this Grasp from Beyond in some way. So I'm going to go ahead and start kiting back over to it and getting the Blizzard behind me and just interrupting the Hand from Beyond. Beyond that, I'm not going to worry about trying to kill it. So right there, I waited just a little bit too long. I probably should have just canceled that cast, and I'll let the adds catch up to me. But overall, it was fine. I had plenty of space after that. Those things don't kill you right away, but as you can see, they deal a chunk of damage. So be aware of where they are. I almost got a little bit too sloppy at the end, but it was enough, and he was already down pretty low. So this one was a really interesting one. I really like it when the challenges actually reflect the class in some way. I really felt like I was playing a Frost Mage. This felt like it was designed around the Frost Mage, unlike some of the other ones. And it was really a feeling that I didn't get from any of the other challenges except for maybe Blood Death Knight with being able to pull the boss all over the place. So this one was actually a lot of fun for me. I really enjoyed it. Definitely a challenge. It can be a little bit frustrating as Frost can definitely struggle with procs and stuff like that. But overall, I think it was one of the more fun ones. So let me know what you guys think about it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments down below. And I will see you guys next time.